Good morning. My talk today is going to be on formulation of nutraceuticals and dietary supplements. I'm a research scientist at Neutralite, and it is a part of Amway. And I've been working there for the past 2 years. Before that, my background was in the pharmaceutical field. So when I joined in this new role, I found out that the formulation is so similar and yet so different. So I would like to share the formulation and regulatory challenges, and I hope you find it interesting too. So as more and more people are becoming aware of their health and wellness, nutraceuticals are gaining attention and more market share. To define nutraceutical, it is a specially treated food, vitamin, mineral, herb, dietary supplement, etc., that you can eat or drink in order to improve your health. Full definition: a foodstuff that is fortified or dietary supplement that provides health benefits in addition to its basic nutritional value. So the solid dosage formulation and the process design for drug products as well as nutrition products is similar. The purpose and regulatory requirements may differ. The desire for safe and effective dosage form is the same. We have to provide safety and efficacy. Desire for most cost-effective formulation and process is the same. So what are the formulation challenges for a nutraceutical? Botanicals are very complex. They have several phytonutrients such as different flavonols, polyphenols, etc., with different chemical components. So these, and in a typical one-a-day multivitamin, multimineral, you can have as many as 50 active ingredients. So you can see that the 70 to 90% of the formula is only actives, and there's very less room for excipients. Botanicals and extracts can vary based on the region the crop was grown, season grown, and different other factors. And generally, due to the low potency of the extract or the clinically efficacious dose, generally we need to add a large dose per serving. So you can see how pre-formulation can be so tricky with so many different actives. So significant variation in active ingredient particle size, since we have so many different 20 to 50 actives. The compression and flow characteristics are also dominated by the actives, as there's only 10 to 30% of excipients in there. Large variation in heat, light, and moisture sensitivity of ingredients within one formula. For example, B vitamins are very sensitive and have a loss in degradation, whereas minerals do not degrade so much. So due to so much variation, we also see a lot of significantly variation in process as well as in the analytical methods. And so due to the process, analytical methods, and degradation, in order to maintain 100% of the dose at the end of the shelf life, it requires addition of overages. So similar to pharmaceuticals, we also perform in-process physical characterizations such as hardness, friability, uniformity. Test methods have to be developed to make sure that the testing of one active does not interfere from others in the matrix. DT dissolution as well as have to provide stability data. Depends on what the countries require, but usually 40 degrees as well as room temperatures. So as we are moving towards stricter regulations and higher quality standards, more and more nutraceutical companies are performing pre-formulation and formulation characterization, raw materials, as well as for the finished products. So these are some of the different characterizations that can be done. So finished good specifications need to be provided for identity, purity, strength, composition, and shelf life as well. So about making health claims. So different countries have different requirements. Sometimes the established generic claims for vitamins and minerals can be used. For example, for B vitamins, you have generic claims that it helps to metabolize and generate energy. But due to some regulations, or if the company needs to have a unique selling point, many companies are compelled to conduct clinical research for new health claims. So what are the challenges? As you can see, the choice of study population. For nutraceuticals, have to use healthy population, not disease state population. And the nature of nutraceuticals. The health benefits of botanicals or vitamins are not very drastic. And also, if you see vitamins, they don't have a specific site of action. So it makes it complicated in the clinical trials. But compared to pharmaceuticals, we can have a smaller subject population, as well as the duration timing can be smaller. Just to give you an overview of the regulatory considerations, the regulatory landscape has a strong influence. At Amway, we formulate global formulations, and these are just a few of the references and monographs that have to be considered in order to make a global formula. Since nutraceuticals are considered in many countries as food, and consumers are now expressing that they need certifications such as GMO-free, halal, kosher. So these also have to be looked into. In each country, the registration category or classification can be different based on the claims that we're making, as well as the ingredients and the quantity of the ingredients. The registration complexity can vary by country and the category, and the dossier requirements are vary very greatly. Testing requirements can also be very different for finished goods, as well as the ingredients and excipients, and these are not very uniform in different countries. Just to give, if you look at the map, this is for registration complexities in different markets for powders, drinks, and bars. And you can see that in the ones that are green, that there is no registration required, whereas the ones in red, it's a high complexity country. For health supplements, as well as traditional Chinese medicines, you can see that the complexity increases, especially in Asian markets. And these are the several different classifications under which the formula can fall into, depending on the health benefits as well as the ingredients in the formula. The allowance of ingredients, as you can see, in many countries, like for example EU, anything that was used before 1997 is considered an existing. If there is something that new, you have to file for a novel drug authorization. Many countries also have a positive list of ingredients. These positive lists contain actives as well as excipients and other additives like flavors, etc. And if any of the ingredient from your formula does not fall into the positive list, then you have to have strong evidence and justification is required for why you're using it in the formula. Also based on whether that ingredient has been commonly used traditionally in food, the data required for justifying and the safety can be less or more. So several countries have their own testing requirements or positive lists that impacts choices. Do not always reciprocate the USP standard of excipients. China has its own, Korea has its HFF, and Japan also has the Food Association on the positive list for additives. So for example, in Malaysia itself, there are 4 different nutrition categories: functional foods, traditional medicine, OTC, and health supplement. And many products based on the formula can fall into either the food-drug interface. And depending on the characteristics and ingredients, they may be regulated by the National Pharmaceutical Bureau or the Food Safety and Quality Division. And this is a guide to the classification of food and drug interface and how to decide where the formula falls in. So as I mentioned, that different countries have different regulatory requirements, and there is not much harmonization, but many countries are now working towards global regulatory requirements. For example, the IADSA is the leading international expert association regarding the globalization of food markets and increasing regulatory challenges. And this association is from 6 continents. Another association is the Southeast Asia nations. So as I mentioned, regulatory scrutiny is increasing, but with regional differences. An increased focus on substantiation of health claims through clinical studies. Food safety issues will result in more restrictions. Some regions, such as EU and Asia, are heading towards global harmonized rules. However, regulatory harmonization is being delayed in some regions due to local interest. I would just like to talk a little bit about our company, Amway Nutralite. So Amway, we have control over the safety and quality right from the seed to supplement. So we have the capabilities of growing on our own farms and all the way up to large-scale manufacturing. We have a unique functional target library where different botanicals from all around the world are screened. These are looked into and then extracted, and functional tests or bioassays are done. Currently, we are focusing on 6 main functional, as mentioned below, and then a database is created. And currently, we have more than 2,500 identified botanicals. Amway has the technology capabilities to support right from discovery up to development, and we have agricultural research department, chemistry or analytical sciences lab, clinical testing, process technology, quality, rapid prototyping and formulation, and large-scale manufacturing. To summarize, formulation of nutraceuticals is similar and yet different than pharmaceutical formulation. Regulations vary by different countries. There is a need for harmonization. Formulation, testing, and labeling of nutraceuticals is getting stricter as we enhance the safety and quality. Nutralite and Amway will continue to make advancements and commitment in formulation for optimal health and wellness. I would like to thank Mary Murray. She's our resident expert and my mentor at Nutralite, and acknowledge my group. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that lecture. And we have a question.
Question regarding the health claims for supplements, not vitamins, supplements, big difference. Okay. You mentioned that companies are conducting clinical trials.
Right.
But obviously, these clinical trials are not acknowledged, for example, by the FDA. Because otherwise, the FDA wouldn't ask you to put the label on your bottles. This product is not intended to cure, to prevent, yes. You know this, okay?
Yes.
For example, would you buy a car where in small print is written, this car is not intended to get you from point A to point B? So, I mean, my question is really, what kind of clinical trials are these?
So, for supplements, US is one of the less complex market in terms of registration. But for other countries, even to make a claim that this can support, so many times you will see on a label that this supports cardiovascular health or it supports women health. So even to make that support claim, many countries need clinical trials and that evidence to support your data.
Yeah, and that's stunning to me. If you look at the United States, and you mentioned something before and after 1994. You know, in 1994, the law Congress has passed was called by the New York Times the Snake Oil Protection Act, which allows such companies to sell pretty much everything we want to sell. And we explore the gullibility and the ignorance of people who are desperate for a certain cure, and these people pay a lot of money for nothing. I'm sorry, I had to get rid. I had to get rid of. No, I'm sorry, but I had to say this.
All right, thank you. May I just inject a question?
Sure.
With regard to chiral nutraceuticals, have you had experience with any of those? And do you see the regulations eventually being enforced that people would have to supply such nutraceuticals in the correct enantiomeric form?
Yes, I think that a lot, as it's getting so strict, more and more all the countries are moving towards having pharmaceutical grade quality and safety, and I see that we are moving in that right direction. Other countries, such as I mentioned, Asia is stricter and needs all the evidence. And so, as I mentioned, we will be going towards doing more raw material characterization and pre-formulation.
Please, I have a question here.
You mentioned about the harmonization regarding testing, analytical testing or claim. Who would charge for this? United Nations or who would charge for harmonization?
So mainly we are seeing that continents are coming together, as EU has harmonizing their regulations for EU countries as well as the Asian countries, but so far there hasn't been all around globe harmonization. So.
Thank you.
Thank you for this very, very interesting talk. It shows really the complexity, I think, of nutraceutical formulation. And I was wondering, from a toxicological point of view, you mentioned that botanicals are very complex molecules, and so I'm assuming that they are degrading a lot and generating a lot of degradation products. And are we sure that we are able to find all the degradation products? And are there some also tox studies with these degradation products? How do we fix do we have the same specs as regards to degradation products as for pharmaceuticals, where it's quite strict? So could you comment on this, please?
Sure. So as you mentioned, that botanicals are so complex, so one of the challenges has been in developing the right analytical methods as well, in order to analyze the botanicals as well as the metabolites. So that's one of the reasons I think that even the regulations, though we are moving towards making them stricter, the challenge has been how even to test it. So I know that we perform safety and toxicity studies, though it's on compared to pharmaceuticals, it's still on a very short period of time, but these tests and analyzing the metabolites are performed.
Very good. I think we can move on, and let me present this certificate of recognition to our speaker. Thank you very much indeed.